Campgrounds. Let's Play podcast. So, I had my one school bus. Could it be you haven't heard about my one school bus? After I kind of uttered that yesterday, I think it was. It's still January, though, right? I remembered I only ever had one school bus, and it was easy to remember, not only because it was the only one, it didn't dare pull in my long, narrow gravel driveway. There wasn't enough room to turn around. But luckily, the state had widened the road out in front of us, which makes us now, remember the only straightaway on our road. So we've got the only long shoulder on the road because the bridge, they put in a new bridge over our creek. And so the school bus just parked itself out there. It came twice because I had a big group. Now, I do not remember the name of the group. It's not important. It may have been some kind of homeschooling group. They came out. This was during an era when I did not have a daytime planetarium. It might have been just before the French artist came out and did the book, but it was not dark in there, and they insisted on coming out during the day. So this was my one chance to teach astrophysics. Excuse me. And so I did lectures. I managed to get the ectographic carousel projector working that Smith had sent home with me. I managed to get it working just long enough to show a series of slides that he had also provided on star formation, and I packed them in. This was just before. Yeah, I know it was before the book because, excuse me, we were still facing the wall with the incline where I had done all the Lord of the Rings videos before that. I had the whole setup with the castle. Remember the ghost in the Warwick Castle? All that was filmed there. So anyway, so I packed them in. I've got pictures of, there were probably 20 kids in the barn 2 straight times. And I basically just told them how stars were produced. And I even had a hydrogen helium styrofoam ball model, I remember, that to show how hydrogen morphed into helium and gave off photons, gave off heat. And that was well received. The whole thing was well received because I don't think they knew, what to expect. They were just going to some crazy guy's house out in the country. And so they weren't expecting a planetarium per se, which is good because they didn't get one. They wouldn't have fit anyway. Even in the 15-foot dome, I don't think it would have seated 20 people. So, but the point that I was getting to was they typically met out at a lake in a shelter, in a big shelter area. And at first they wanted me to go out there and bring, whatever I brought. I could bring a slideshow like I ended up doing, or I could have brought my star projector. So I toyed with that idea. I remember the wife and I went out there and looked at it. And it was big, but we couldn't get in. Unexpectedly, it was locked, so we had to just peer through the windows. But it was just rafters up above, so I racked my brain. I remember trying to think of how I could arrange a makeshift dome. But then I got to thinking, the campground we used to frequent up at Land Between the Lakes, up around Cadiz, Kentucky, they had an outdoor movie theater. They would, have a nerd that set up a projector. And they watched movies. So you could have done that. I could have done that with some kind of either a star slideshow. It would have been free, obviously, or some kind of makeshift dome. I talked about a star party dome that I would tow out on a trailer. Well, it just occurred to me that I could have done that, a freebie star show at the campground. Now there still is a planetarium, but it's off in Land Between the Lakes. It's still about a 20-minute ride from that campground. So I think that would have been popular. People out in lawn chairs, that would have been an opportunity, as was their shelter for the big group that ended up coming out to my place in the school bus. So that was an idea that I never followed up on. But to this day, I wonder how I could have done an actual barn show. Or not barn show, but a shelter show out there. You probably couldn't have made it dark either. You would have had to hang some kind of curtains on the window, because the shelter did have windows. But that's my famous school bus adventure. Bye.